Hello, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Taylor and today we'll be going over my 10 most anticipated book releases for 2025. But before we hop in the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you love all things books, and happy Bookmas Day 6. Before we hop into my little list, let's just get one thing straight. If I like an author, I'm going to be intrigued enough to read their next book. So no matter what's on this list, I pretty much do not know the plot to most of them. I just know I like this author, I like their books, and I'm intrigued. And I don't think there's anything on here that really caught my eye for the plot. So I'll be definitely just, gushing about my favorite authors and my favorite book series. And I guess without further ado, here's the 10 books that I'm most excited to read or pick up next year. Alright, so first book by an auto-buy author. It is her first venture outside of the Love Lights Farm series, and it is First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. I have one book left to finish in the Love Light Farm series, but did I binge the first 3 books 2 years ago? Yes, I absolutely love them. If you're a fan of small town reads, that series is for you. And she just knows how to write a romance book. Like, she knows how to build the tension. Are her books usually a little more slow burn than I would necessarily go for? Yes. But do I ignore it? Absolutely. If you're curious, my favorite book of hers so far is Mixed Signals. I'm waiting to see what Business Casual brings me. But this one, because I think it has something to do with like radio hosts or something like that, it's going to be on the list. I do not know if it's another small town romance, but I do know that it is a romance. Next up, The Knight and the Moth by Rachel Gillick. Again, no understanding of plot for this. I do know it is a fantasy story. I assume it'll be a gothic fantasy. Rachel Gillick wrote The Shepherd's King duology, which was One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, which I read this year, and I'd say that's like a 4.75 star duology for me, and it was just so unique in the concept and the structure and the building of the story in terms of like fantasies that I read. And I've read a lot of fantasies, I feel like, in my time, especially a lot of popular fantasies. I'm just excited to see what she brings us next. Also, I feel like gothic fantasy is slowly intriguing me more. You know, fantasy with a little bit of like a little horror element, a little dark academia to it, like a little Ollie Blake thrown in there. Sounds great. Plus, the cover is intriguing. The cover is very intriguing to me. I'm sure it's on the screen for you. So then we have what I'm pretty sure is the conclusion to this series, and that is Accomplice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. Now, if you had watched my recent reading fantasy reading vlog or discussing this, you'll know that book 2 was not necessarily my favorite. I still give it 4 stars. But this series is just a fun little romp in itself. It follows Evangelina Sage, or Evie Sage as we come to know her, who is down on her luck, having trouble finding a job when she stumbles upon the villain in the forest one day, and he's like, "You need a job," and she said, "I will take it." And then it follows their adventures together as they grow as, boss-employee, also relationship. And, it's basically following of we all been falling for the villain, so what happens if you actually fell for the villain? He was the main character of the story. So I'm curious to see Accomplice to the Villain, because they finally set up a plot that I knew was coming the entire time I was reading the book 2. I was like, this feels like that's where it's going. So I'm curious to see where she executed. But I'm kind of just there for the fun little time. I'm hoping the two finally get together. The problem with slow burn, as I've always said, is sometimes I'm like, why do you keep miscommunicating? Why? Just speak to each other. And yeah, so if you don't like miscommunication, I would say this is probably not the series for you. But if you like just something funny, rom-com-esque with a little fantasy thrown in there, I would implore you to pick up the series. Now we have another Lauren Asher book. The Lake Wisteria series, Lakefront Billionaires, I think is what it's called. The 3rd book, Love Arranged, following Lorenzo, is coming out next year, and I know it's going to be a little fake dating marriage of convenience situation, for publicity for his little mayoral run, and I know there's a little tension between the family members with the girl that he, volunteers to be his fake wife. Can I remember her name? No. But yeah, Lauren Asher be giving us these thick novels, and I will be sad every time, because I've just, as she went on, the romances just made me feel some more. I will say Love Unwritten was not necessarily my favorite of hers. We all know my favorite is Redeemed. Santiago for the win. But I'm curious to see, because I love fake dating and marriage of convenience will always be tropes that have me eating it up. every single time. Then we have Spiral by Bal Cabra. She wrote Collide, which is a contemporary hockey romance that I read. I can't remember if I read it this year or last year. It feels like a while ago, so maybe last year. We'll see when I do like my end of the year reading wrap up. That was just so cute and fun and just sweet. It was a little long for my taste, but I gave it somewhere in the 4-star range. But she just had it going. And Spiral is supposed to be following one of the other hockey players, and then what was the girl's name from book 1? Summer. Following Summer, one of Summer's friends, who I think he is basically absolutely in love with her and she's not necessarily in love with him. She's also a ballerina. And I feel like plot's set up there. I'm currently reading Powerless by Elsie Silver, so I think I might like me a little prima ballerina storyline. But also I like a man who's just down bad. So I'm curious, because listen, new adult sports romance, it's what kind of got me into the reading journey as an adult. And I will eat it up every time as well. Then we have Rewind It Back by Liz Tomford or Tomford A. I've been recently informed. Listen, Windy City series. I've got 2 5-star reads in that series and a 4.75-star read. We love it. We love it. Rio, I've been waiting because every time I see him pop up in the books, I'm like, Rio is the man for me. Although Ryan Shea does exist. But Rio, I really thought the man was bisexual, and I felt confirmed because a lot of people thought that. Maybe it's just because I'm bisexual. But he's ending up with women. Doesn't mean that he isn't. But Rewind It Back, I assume, is going to be a second chance romance. Just because Rewind. I'm not a huge fan of second chance romances. But you know what? I'm going to eat it up every time. How many times can I say that phrase in one video, one sitting? Because it's the Windy City series and I'm super attached to these characters and they live rent-free in my head. What do you mean Ryan Shea isn't like a real person? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? And also Miller from book 3. If I was going to date a girl, I'd date Miller. Well, I mean, I would date girls. But like if Miller popped up in my purview, I would definitely date her. Then we have Ride With Me by Simone Sultani. So I read Cross the Line, her debut F1 racing, like contemporary romance, earlier this year. And I'm just going to say that book wins for greatest whiplash I've ever had in an epilogue novel. Just going to say I talked about it in the reading blog that I read it. But the first book was really cute and really sweet. Is it the best sports romance I've ever read? No. But am I here for the F1 racing vibes? Yes. And guess what? The second book is A Marriage of Convenience between a pop star. Eat it up. I know some people don't like singing in books, but listen, sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. But like pop star. Down on her luck pop star. And then, of course, a little morally gray, down on his luck, like needs to pull himself together, hero. And I'm like, yes, I will be sat. I'm just ready to see what it goes. I'm curious to see if her writing improves as the story goes on. Although when she announced who was going to be the hero of the next book, I'm like, that is not who I thought this story was going to follow. But I am curious to see how she executes that, because at the end of the last book, I was like, oh, interesting that you chose him. So I guess I'll definitely have to see where she goes with that one. This one's going to come as no surprise to anybody because we know how much I love the Legendborn Cycle series, and we get the conclusion next year with Oathbound. Listen, Tracy keeps leaving us with, if you haven't read it, go out, read Legendborn, see you in the next video, or skip like a minute ahead. But listen, Legendborn, book 1, she wrapped up nicely. Not saying we didn't have cliffhangers, but she was good. Bloodmarked, even though I could see it coming, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, because, I just want to see it. I have thoughts in my head of things that I want to happen and things that I think will happen, but it's going to be another 500-something pages of pure, like, will they happen? Like, will this romance happen? Will they be saved? Like, will Bree ultimately make it through the decisions that she's chosen to live with? Oathbound, I fear Oathbound will take up my entire personality during the month of March because it comes out during my birthday month. I think it comes out right before my birthday. That'll be a great 25th. That'll be all I'll be doing on that day. So if you're like me and you're ready for the last book, I'm not ready for the last book because then it's going to be over. But if you're ready to see the conclusion, I'll probably do like a whole reading blog for it. And if you want to see that, just leave it in the comments down below. Then we have Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. I've only accomplished reading 2 of her books. I always see Olivia Blake has some thick writing. I think I heard Madison Kate say she's kind of like the Shakespeare of our time. I mean, I don't like Shakespeare as a person, but I feel like it's kind of that writing that she really have to dig into. Like, you have to be like sit down ready to have to think. It's not easy lighthearted like writing. You're not easy breezy cover girl situation here. You're gonna be like reading and being like, I have to digest for a second. That's definitely how One from My Enemy was for me. But she always makes me think, and I always do giggle a little at the romances that she gives me. And she always kind of ensues something. She always wants you to learn something from her books, and I just feel very accomplished every time I read one. Do I know what Gifted and Talented is about? No. I believe there are some family dynamics that are going to be discussed. I feel like someone dies, inheritance is sought after, and the cover's beautiful. She knows how to make a cover, or whoever her cover designer knows what they're doing. I also picked up her young adult novels, which is under her, Olivia Blake is her pen name, and then Alexine Farrell Fomouth is her real name, and she writes YA under that. So I'm also excited to see what she does in YA, but this is an adult book as far as I know. Then we have a book that no one is surprised to see on there because Kimberly Lemming took my heart this year. I got abducted by aliens and now I'm trapped in a rom-com. She gave me monster romance and now she's giving me alien smut. Yes, girl. We understand. I assume by the title it tells me exactly what's going to happen. But I looked at that cover and I'm like, If you haven't read the Mead Mishap series, pick it up. It is 18+. It is most definitely monster smut. But it's monster smut with great plot. Like, there is plot and adventure to go along with it. And there's a lot of comedy and humor to it. Do I have a favorite book from the series? I don't know. I think I like them all. I think I like them all equally. I was tempted to say maybe book 1, but then it's like book 2 and book 3 also exist, and I gave them all 5 stars. So will I absolutely be ready to consume every bit of this that she gives me? Yes. Am I hoping it's going to kick off a new series because the Mead Mishaps is over with as far as I know? Yes. And those are the top 10 books that I'm most excited to see come out next year. Hopefully I get to read all of them. Don't hold me to it because, money, books are expensive, and also work. I'm starting to teach a new class for the first time in the spring semester, so anything that comes out during that first half of the year is probably going to be a little hard to consume or a little hard to reach. But yeah, let me know what you're most excited to read next year, if any of my most anticipated releases are on your list, or if there's anything that I should be adding to this list. And I'll see you in the next Bookmas video.